This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
Bob, how you doing today? Happy Major League Opening Day.
Yeah, maybe the Tigers can win. They're playing down in Tampa, so that'd be great to be a game over 500. We'll see what happens.
How long are you going to allow yourself to be optimistic? Or are you even allowing optimism before the first game is played?
Oh, I don't have very high expectations for the Tigers right now. I mean, just hope they don't lose 100. How about that?
Did Jim Leland, was he a manager of Pittsburgh and Detroit?
That's right.
Yeah,
Took
nice.
the Tigers to their last World Series.
You got to have a heater in the dugout.
No kidding.
Oh yeah, he was. He's known for smoking. I think they passed a rule or something that banned tobacco products in the dugout. So I guess he had to go in the clubhouse and smoke. But no, to me, Jim Leland's a Hall of Fame manager. He obviously won a World Championship with the Marlins. Took the Tigers to World Series. Had the Pirates, as a playoff team, but
that was Dontrell
Tigers.
Willis and Josh Beckett, huh, Bob? Is that who that was? Yeah, wow.
You're talking about, well, of course, when he was with Pittsburgh, he had Bonilla and Barry Bonds before the steroids, and Andy Van Slyke, and of course with the Tigers, he had Miggy, obvious first ballot Hall of Famer, and Victor Martinez, and a lot of really good players. But yeah, the Tigers' problem right now is just he had Verlander and Scherzer and David Price on one season. They had 3 Cy Young winners on the staff, and they still couldn't win the World Series. But that's neither here nor there. So
you got Miguel Cabrera still. Hey, Cabrera was on that Marlins team, by the way, wasn't he? I think he was a rookie that year.
Back in 2003. Yeah, he was. Miggy's obviously a great player. 500 plus home runs, 3,000 plus hits, long career. I don't really think he has much left in the tank. He's battled through a lot of injuries. Definitely appreciate everything he's done. Won the last guy to win the Triple Crown, first guy to do it in a long time, I guess, since Yaz, I think it was, in '67. And so, but yeah, we got some new leadership with the team, and hopefully we can get things figured out, get the franchise turned around.
Let's talk Arkansas basketball here for a moment, Bob. Nick Smith declares for the NBA draft. No surprise. The season's been over for a little less than a week now. What's next? You know that he was going into the draft. I think for Arkansas, let's focus on the Razorbacks aspect of this, not the Nick Smith aspect of this, because his mind's made up. And I think it was made up even before he committed to Arkansas that this was going to be the case. Anthony Black, Ricky Council, you think these guys are headed to the draft too?
Yeah, I'd be absolutely flabbergasted if. Let me say this: I think there's a better chance the Tigers winning the pennant than there is of Anthony Black not entering the draft. And I mean that with all due respect to Anthony. I mean, he had a great freshman year. He's listed as a top 10 pick in most of the mock drafts you see. And so to me, no matter who you are or who you play for in college, no matter how good at freshman year you have, no matter how good a time you had, even if you have stuff to work on, which obviously Anthony and any freshman does, to me, Anthony Black, it's a no-brainer to enter the draft and be a high pick and go sign and make a lot of money. So, yeah, I think it's just like with Nick. I mean, I think you knew with Anthony, learned something, catastrophic happening. He was going to be a one-and-done guy. And then I would, Ricky Council, he's a little different. He's a junior, but he had a good season, and very athletic. I think he's exactly what the NBA is looking for, 6'6" guy with good length and, so athletic. So I expect Ricky Council to go in the draft, although I don't have any inside information. And then Callie Jordan Walsh, I mean, if I were him, I would, enter the draft and keep my options open and just see what kind of feedback you get. But, I think the next shoe to drop, or however you want to put that, is Anthony Black declaring. To me, he's like Nick. It's not a question of if he's going to the draft. It's a question of when he's going to declare.
Who do you think gets drafted first? And it's it's not necessarily about being drafted first. It's about getting to the right fit. But if you were an NBA GM and you're looking at this Arkansas roster and you had to add a guy to your team, who's the guy you're taking off? Are you taking Ricky? You taking Walsh? You know, Nick, Anthony? But who do you think are the guy that's going to have the better NBA career?
Well, it's hard to say. I mean, it really depends on a team, what they're looking for. And, of course, you know, even though these guys, you know, Nick only got to play whatever 36 minus 19 is. What is that, 17 games? So that was a pretty short season. He obviously showed some great highlights, and the other games he didn't play as well. You know, Anthony got to play the whole season and played a ton of minutes. So I think Anthony, just based on his body of work this year, would probably go a little bit higher, but it really depends on what the team's looking for. If they're looking for a score, you know, they'd probably pick Nick for.
Yeah, but if you're only playing 17% of the games, what are we doing here, Bob? Like that, you got a kid that's undersized. He's got to get some strength on him, and you're going up against 19, 20-year-old kids, and your knee hurts still. We got to be healthy, man, to go up there and play with grown men.
Well, yeah, and it was 17 games total. But, yeah, I think a lot of it depends on, you know, assuming they get invited to the combine. And some guys do a lot at the combine. Some guys just go and do interviews. But I think in Nick's case, he's got to show, and we know that knee is going to get examined, you know, every which way. I mean, we just, you know, yesterday was Arkansas's pro day for you know, football players, and they talked about, some of the guys talked about going to Indianapolis for the combine, spending literally 2 days in the hospital, getting every inch of their bodies examined. And I've heard guys tell stories of, you know, somebody tell them, oh, you fractured your ankle 10 years ago or something. They don't even know. So there's going to be a ton of scrutiny, you know, medical attention paid to Nick's knee, and how's that doing? And I got to believe it's okay, or else he wouldn't come back and play. At least I hope he wouldn't come back and play. And so, you know, and then it depends on how they do in their individual workouts. If they go to the combine and play, how do they do there? So, yeah, I would think, you know, like I say, Anthony Black played more minutes than anybody in the SEC, I think, average-wise, probably total, too, because nobody went farther than Sweet 16. So, to me, Anthony Black's, you know, he's got more of a resume out there, so to speak, and what he did in the SEC. You know, Nick played about half the season, and then even in those games, there were several where he played limited minutes, and, you know, obviously it was an up-and-down year because he's out, back, you know, disjointed. So I think the main thing is they're both going to be first-round draft picks. I'm just guessing here. I would think Anthony would be a little bit higher, but it really depends on what a team's looking for, and then how does Nick do in the workouts, and what's the final, you know, medical thought on his knee. You know?
Yeah, if you're saying that we saw Nick at 60%, then yeah, I totally get it. Then he's gonna have a great NBA career. But if we saw Nick closer to healthy, man, he's got a lot of work to get going.
Yeah, but if you're an NBA general manager, what are you going to go off of right now? And the scouts, you know, that are telling you a year ago this kid would have been a lottery pick, but he was forced to go play college basketball because of our league's rules. And in that year, his draft stock slipped, because we never saw him at 100%. But when he was 100% in high school, like, he was great. We would have taken him. Does that really hurt his draft stock that much because he went to play college ball for 1 year and played injured most of the time?
Yeah, well, I don't know if he, quote, played injured, but I think the fact that, you know, you sit out and it affects your conditioning, it affects your timing, you're not used to your teammates. But I think you also have to remember, you know, Nick had some really big games for him, and I hope people...
He can score, yeah.
Oh, yeah, he can score in a variety of ways, and I think we just saw glimpses of him. You know, you think back to, I think he scored 22 against UNC Greensboro, and people might say, well, big what? But that was the game that Trevor Brazile got hurt, and I think the whole team was kind of off that game, and they ended up winning by, I think, 7, and that was they shot 30. The reason I know is because I looked it up the other day. I think they shot 33.3% in that game. And that was their worst shooting game as a team until UConn. And I remember Eric Musselman said after the game that they probably don't win that without Nick Smith, you know. And that, you know, that would have been a really bad loss at home. But Greensboro ended up having a pretty good year. And then he scored 21 when they beat OU in Tulsa. That ended up being a big win, you know. And again, you know, not a damaging loss because OU was very up and down, had some good wins, you know, killed Alabama and had some good wins in the Big 12. And then Nick hit the game-winning shot when they beat Auburn in in Nashville in the SEC tournament. Maybe that win kept him out of Dayton and an 11-11 game. Maybe that got him, that 8th seed and gave him a shot at Kansas and Illinois and all that. So I hope fans, Nick Smith didn't have the year everybody expected because he was in and out of the lineup, but I hope people realize he still had some big games, and he didn't have to come back and play. But I hope people appreciate that he came back and played and had some big games for him. And but yeah, what you hope for Nick Smith now is that knee will be right, that he'll get the medical evaluation he wants from the incredible scrutiny I'm sure that he's going to undergo from NBA teams. And then, you hope he has good workouts and everything and maximizes his draft stock. Because I think right now, if you say, well, he's projected to go here, that could change a lot depending on what they see from his knee and then what he does in workouts.
Yeah, as far as can the kid play, absolutely he can play in the NBA. The thing that I would have, my medical staff would just have to go through the X-rays and do all that stuff. That's the number one, I think, issue with Nick is the doctors and the medical staff have to look at his knee.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously that's been kind of vague, knee management. What does that mean exactly? But, the NBA teams, they're not going to invest, a high draft pick in a guy without knowing every single inch of his body. And so whatever's going on with that knee or has gone on with that knee, they're going to know all about it.
BetOnline remains your number one source for all your college basketball betting this season. Get analysis of every play, prop, and point at BetOnline. You'll find the latest odds, bracket contests, team matchups, and game trends at BetOnline. Updated odds for everything from live games right through the Final Four and the championship game. BetOnline is where your college basketball headquarters are this season. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to sign up and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Be sure to use our promo code BELIEVE to receive your bonus. That's BLEAV. BetOnline.ag, where the game starts.